words do you speak? Do you walk them well? Ask your heart, do you know who I am? Do you hear the child who wants to run with the wind? Do you hear the child who wants to run with the wind? Joy, do you know how it tastes? Do you know how you feel right here, right now? Ask your heart, where did I go? Can you find the child who wants to run with the wind? Can you find the child who wants to run with the wind? Take a glimpse of God along the horizon. Know that somewhere there's a place called home. Hear the message from the corridors of heaven and go running safely to the arms of the one you dance, let 'em know who you are. Wear your love on your sleeve and diamonds in your eyes. Tell your heart, I know who I am. You will hear the child who runs with the wind. You will be the child who runs with the wind. You will love the child who runs with the wind. Who runs with the wind.
Good morning on this beautiful Thursday morning. and we are going to explore the quality of courage or the virtue of courage embedded or found when we actually become full of joy. So let's, good morning, Sister Ashika. Almost forgot you.
Almost lucky. Good morning, Oshipen. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Feels like a little bit of a, how can I say, special morning.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It is a very special morning. So we got the quality, the virtue of courage today. And a lot of what we were saying yesterday in terms of being content, for me felt like, it takes courage really to, in a sense, come to the point where I let the differences pass and come into myself, so that actually nothing from the outside can actually affect me. So courage is not generally this thing that is overt. And most of the time, people will look at you and think, you? Mm-mm. And it's at that point when you have the absolute conviction, absolute trust, absolute faith, and the knowing that this is me minus everyone else. And it's not even a sense of arrogance that you're just paving your own way. It comes with actually having that kind of deep understanding that if I really want to be someone who can make a contribution to the world, I have to stand in my true light and not allow any shadow or any shade to blur the vision. And I think this is perhaps the thoughts that are in my mind this morning.
So this energy of courage, like you say, it's something that's inside, but it's an expression that we get to see. I think if you look at anyone who's like a superhero in these comic strips that you have, or these movies nowadays where you have, it always takes somebody who's ordinary to become extraordinary. And they always have suddenly emerge in a different costume, can be meek and mild. And for whatever reason, Hulk is coming to my mind this morning. And, he's this little professor and tinkers around and he's quite shy. And it takes a different energy that makes him something bigger. And then even he bulks up and goes beyond the costume that he is. And for me, that's an expression of, not as Hulk per se, but how we move from being ordinary or seemingly ordinary to extraordinary is this courage that we take. And the element that is associated with is that what is that which metabolizes me into that space? It's this energy of fire. And it's a transformational energy. If you look at every single other element, there's nothing there that actually manages to change, and not just change for the sake where it will revert to the original state, but transform. And if you look at the energy of fire, you have that at the very core of the being. And when seated within the body, we say it sits in our stomach area, that our abdomen, where all these, whatever we take in, we digest at this point. And that energy of fire that's created allows the things to break down, and then we take the essential from it. That which is not required is actually eliminated, and that which is required actually gets then used to propel the body and power it up. And on a spiritual level, on the soul level, it starts there. And yesterday we were looking at the divine as the one who is the source of this fire, this energy that comes as a friend in that relationship. And when we see that, there's this just absolute feeling that at the very core of myself, I have things that can make me move, shift, change, and there's nothing that stays stagnant, in that environment. So if you had to just share, Ushapen, on how would we use this awareness of this um, transformational energy? So happens with me first. We say the motto is when I change, then the world changes. And that's the fire that basically, you say always when you want to move somebody, they say light a fire under them, because it gets us jumping. It's the energy that moves us. So what is this energy of when I change, the world changes? What is that fire?
In a way, when we look at our world today, and I want to just quickly look at the kind of maybe vices that we're functioning from, and anger is a very big one. Greed, jealousy, desires, and in all these different what we would call vices. They have actually created in us that kind of almost they propel us. Like when there's greed, it forces you to go for more. If I want to feed my ego to feel powerful, then I actually will do things, and we actually completely compromising our qualities, who we really are, because these vices have actually created, in a way, a flame. And what will happen is that this flame will continue burning. For now, when the fire just starts burning, it starts giving you warmth. But when it becomes ferocious, that's when it starts spreading. And that's actually when we realize we don't have control over it at all. And I'm using the fire first in this instance because sometimes it's like until we've kind of reached the bottom, we don't actually see the need for change to happen. Like we need to fall on our faces. We need to kind of hurt before we realize, hey, we need to do something. So it's almost like from all 5 or 4 directions, all the different elements are going into its extreme, in its extremities. And they are actually creating this kind of energy that, in a way, one hand, we're using it to move and enjoy the world. And on the other hand, it actually is becoming the basis from which we're going to be able to see that we've moved away from ourselves. So when people experience extreme pain, then they reach out for help. When they experience complete loneliness and separation, then they seek out. So it seems like if you and I just talk and say, this is a good idea, this is good, if people don't actually have a need, they don't respond. And so it's important for us to understand, firstly, that if we want to kind of make a change, we need to actually see the contrast. We need to see what has actually changed in our lives or what we have moved away from. If we start describing to individuals that you're a pure, intrinsically beautiful, loving, kind, gentle individual, people will look at you and think, well, what do you want from me? And there isn't this acceptance of actually, this is what I am. This is my true original nature. And due to this kind of lack of understanding and knowing our self-power, what is happening is that we're using other things to fuel and create the power for ourselves. So courage will come when we actually realize that we have moved so far away and everything that we're using, which we thought was serving us, has actually brought us down to the point where we've completely lost ourselves. And only when the individual themselves have the capacity to say, I had enough. This is not really the way I want to live my life. And be able to see the contrast between what is really inside of me and what is outside. So if, for example, you're very busy and you're doing a whole lot of stuff, you don't have a chance to drink water or eat. And we know it's very easy to ignore those little needs when we're very engrossed in it. suddenly you become so thirsty, and you don't become so thirsty suddenly. You've actually been compromising, not drinking water, and then suddenly you just need something. You get so desperate and you want to drink it. Then you go by all means to go and do something, and you change that situation. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, because you're asking, what is it that brings courage? So, first of all, there needs to be a catalyst, because if we just ride smoothly on our path, everything is okay, we're managing, we're good, and we kind of have become happy with just being mediocre. So, what will happen is that when that truth within me is compromised, it's almost like at that point, a little bell, alarm bell goes off. And that alarm bell in each one of us is going to become our wake up point. And that wake up point will actually become the seed that will, or the spark, let's say, that will fire up the truth within me. The good thing is that you don't have to go anywhere. Everything that you need is actually inside of you. It has always been and will always be there waiting for you. But it's the duty of each one of us to actually turn inward and step in and notice and realize that that's what I have to actually make the change. I've said this story too many times, but I think for me, it's just like the best story when you think about the hare and the tortoise. And the hare and the tortoise are two very different kind of creatures. But when the hare challenges the tortoise to run the race, immediately the tortoise says, no problem, we can run. The perception of the hare is that this guy is so slow. I mean, for me to win will be very easy. And so he looks at his life based on the features and the qualities of the tortoise. And because of that, he becomes deceived. Whereas the tortoise took on the challenge, not because he was going to run as fast as the hare, but he was going to run, and he knows he can run. So he took on what he is capable of doing, knowing this is what is within himself, and began to do what he does best. And eventually, it was the tortoise that was victorious. And in our lives as well, we don't have to look at what others have to face the world with those kind of qualities or whatever skills that people have. It takes real courage to understand my divinity, my bouquet of special qualities that in a way has been designed to expose and express the true being that I am. And that expression is going to be a little bit different from other people, but it really doesn't matter, because it is up to me to know that this qualities or these virtues, this little bouquet of virtues that I have that best portrays my innate qualities is something that's going to create a recognition. So when I act with a certain virtue, I'm actually giving others a sample of how that quality is expressed in life. And it takes courage to be so different, to own your own being in such a way that you don't feel in any way the pressure of the way others are living their lives, but you can really live your life based on that inner qualities that you know of yourself, that you've recognized are your gifts. And that's what makes life so beautiful. I understand also that when we can really step into our power like that, no matter how powerful we become, that power won't intimidate others. It won't actually become a form of competition or comparison for everyone, because it's coming from such a natural space and such a real space that it will be attractive. I don't know if you kind of, from the long story, got the fact that it is something that is inborn inside of me. And at a certain point, depending on actually how I'm living my life, that spark will come up. And I also understand that there is that courage in each one of us at a certain point that it will come about, to have the faith that truth will always surface.
So taking that courage, I mean, I think every single moment. So you use the word catalyst, and generally that's at a point in time that something emerges. And I think visibly in each one's life, they would find the moments where these catalytic moments happened, and then they were forced into being courageous and take on way beyond their current capability to do something. But to stay constantly in that courage, I think that's the important and thing that I think most souls seek at this moment in time. And as you were sharing this feeling of construction and destruction at the same time that happens with this joy, with this power that we have of joy, that can both take away that which is weaknesses, because it gives permission to one to dance upon something that is lesser than and to exalt in something that is greater than. And for me, that brings a sense of hopefulness as opposed to feeling as if my shoulders are becoming very heavy with this energy of, okay, this sounds like hard work right now, that I've got to do this. And the sample or the example of the tortoise and the hare is a beautiful story. There's a new version of it that's out, of the same one we learned when we were young. But the new one actually talks of the fact that when the two stop competing with each other, and they are competing, even the tortoise is competing, because it knows the hare's ability to be a bit lazy. And you've used this word quite often during the last few days as well. And to relax because I know I'm ahead of the pack. When I see myself greater than, and I'm just drawing from all the other virtues that we've been through, like the humility, etc. And I bring myself into a space where the tortoise knew that, okay, that one's going to take a break, but I actually have something that is constant and stable. So I'll just continue moving. So when he takes a break, I will just get some headway. The new version shows that when they do work with each other and support one another, that they both win the race. And I think for me, that is far more important for souls, or myself even today, because it otherwise seems as a race in which one is a victor and the other one's a loser. And just looking at how people are losing hope in the times we are, how they're losing that joy, how they're losing that fire to exist and move themselves forward. I believe it's a responsibility for each one of us to be able to sort of take our hands out and sort of grab the other one as that friend. And I'm going to draw that relationship back into this joy, is that give permission again to each one to go. So if you're falling, then I need to grab you. And if I'm falling, someone's going to grab me, and to know that's there. So we're drawing this from the divine and pulling that in, but to know that at the end of the day, that line that we come to, we all come together, side by side, friends, happy and joyous, because we all win together. And for me, that's the greatest part of this power of joy that one we can draw from. Shuben, if you want to like sort of round it up in the sense of how we can hold the space, maybe even for today, and then we would journey a bit into the self and explore.
When you look at the relationship as friend, which we spoke about yesterday, this moving forward together as one world family can really only happen when I help myself. And I know that it's a big feeling that we all need to like go together hand in hand. But at this time, the confidence that I need to really support me, if I invest it in anyone, I'm only putting a burden on them. So the feeling really is that reach out inside and hold the energy from up above. And because you are now completely stable, anybody can hang on to you and it will be okay. You will also, if you have still a free hand, reach out and hold somebody else. So the everyone coming together and moving is not actually an impossibility. It is going to be the natural result. But it does mean that the courage I need at this time is not to get distracted. So if I'm constantly thinking how I'm going to help everybody and, like we all must go together, then that becomes a little bit of my own energy getting dissipated. Somebody once told me that if you really want to be generous and help others, first take care of yourself. And it's in really, really being true to who I am and doing whatever it takes that make sure that I don't compromise the qualities within either being. Because that living example is not only what I do, but is what vibration I give out and others begin to feel it. And it's almost like magic that this energy spreads out and it gives others permission to step into this vibrational level. So I totally agree that we are not silos and we're not going to be victorious on the other side by ourselves. It's never proven that a party is made of one person. It really means we all have to be together to experience. But for me to take that step in such a bold way that you might be the only one going that route. And are you okay with that if nobody is even agreeing? Your best friends also don't see the reason why you should be doing it, looks too risky. But if you can go in that way, in such a powerful, strong way, that each step you take actually paves the way for others just to easily flow in. And when you're smiling and you're happy, it's contagious. That's what the joy is all about. We can generally feel like, oh, everyone's looking so miserable, so maybe I should just become miserable. But it takes that bravery, that courage to actually say the joke, to do something that will shift the energy. And this is the catalyst in my heart that is that I want to share, that we each need to find that inside of us. And that one special thing will resonate with somebody out there. And the special thing in the other one will resonate with someone. So we're all going to actually be friends on this journey. We're not going to return alone. And what kind of joy will there be when I see somebody without something? So joy is definitely a very inclusive energy. And it's a befriending energy as well. And the thing about fire as well is that once it starts burning, it spreads very beautifully. You can just see how it quickly takes off. But it's that core that needs to reach a certain temperature, even if that's the right word to say. Then the power in it is that it just spreads slowly. So when people are making, especially when you're doing a braai and you get the coal going, initially, you know what that fire is like. But the coal don't get onto fire immediately. It takes a little bit of time. It needs to reach a certain temperature. And then when the coal catches on fire, then even the flame is gone, but the heat remains. And this is actually how the transformation is going to happen, when the flames in the way subside, but the heat remains. And one thing that you need to keep close to when you're working with courage is patience, because it does need a lot of sustaining energy, and time is a big thing. So if you're looking for quick results, it's not going to happen. So give yourself a little bit of time, but hold on to that which you know is inside. So it's turning inward, holding upward, and waiting. And the waiting really is with faith. And all the power of transformation will take over. And the change that we most desire, that is the whole world to become a world of peace, love, and happiness, is definitely possible.
Okay, great. So let's just step into that world. So just give yourself permission today again to become very still. Allow the body just to relax. And moving your conscious thought, center yourself as a being of light, powerful and pure. And today, see the joy within the self, the very core of your being. Give yourself permission now to step into that space of courage. Surrounded by the warmth of this pure energy, you find yourself with the divine being. And just for a few moments, you find yourself transported to the space where you can see how you have manifested courage in your life. And these scenes come onto the screen of your mind, reminding you, I have done this before. And from now on, I know I can make the impossible possible. Side by side with the divine as my best friend, non-judgmental, unconditionally, the one who holds all of my secrets, the secrets of my true being. I allow myself to hear them again. The secrets of my abilities, my capabilities to be loving, to be powerful, to be pure, to be peaceful, to be wise, to be blissful. And the joy bubbles over within me again. I am that one. I am the divine child. And knowing this, I see all other souls, every one of them, as one who belonged to the same family, to the Supreme Soul, And I know that when I change, they will also change. And I'm guided to this space to take courage once again, to move and shift myself, transform myself into the best me. Holding this pure joy within me, I step into my day filled with courage, and I choose to use it. Om Shanti. Thank you.
So our practice or reminder today, joy and expression of courage. Today I step inward, connecting to the core of my being. I immerse myself in this warmth of pure joy. The energy of pure joy is the fire that reignites life in every seed of greatness within me. I have the courage to make the impossible possible. I have the courage to stay true to my inner convictions. I have the courage to face and transform my weaknesses. I have the courage to let go and be free. So let us enjoy that seeds of greatness inside of us by turning inward. And whenever we spot the color yellow around us, allow the expression of that seed to burst out with warmth and spread that joy all around. Have a beautiful day. Om Shanti.